A joint venture agreement won't save a bad partnership. And what I mean by that is when you're dealing in a real estate joint venture, the person that you're working with, the person that you're getting into business with matters more than the actual contract, the clauses, the shotgun clauses that you have in it. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing my own experience with doing over 60 joint venture deals with partners with my buy and hold and my fix and flip business, so you don't have to repeat the same mistakes. So my first point is the problem isn't paperwork, it's the person. So when you're getting into a business relationship with somebody, you have to ask yourself, is this a person that I want to conduct business with? Whether I had an agreement or not, do I trust this person where if we had a handshake deal, that their integrity is high enough and that they're going to do what they said they're going to do? Whether it's a capital contribution, whether they are a working partner where they're going to manage the deal, they're going to put it under contract, are they going to fulfill what they said they would? And so when I look at working with somebody, I ask myself these things, whether I had a JV agreement or not. You know, is this person someone who I want to get in business for 1 year, for 5 years, for 10 years on our buy and hold business? And that's what primarily we do joint ventures with. It's not on our short-term fix and flips or where we build a property and sell it. It's for our long-term holds. My second point is most investors may even think that an agreement protects them. In actuality, it doesn't. It only protects you if that person is reasonable. I mean, yes, by the letter of the law, there are things that if you get it signed, they have to fulfill it. But if that person at the end of the day is not reasonable, they're not fulfilling their promise, they want to sell the property earlier than what the JV agreement has stipulated, it can cause you a lot of headache and stress. And I've seen that in our own business over a few deals we've done over the years where the partnership, I got into it a little bit quick, I didn't do my due diligence, I didn't ask them the proper questions, and I rushed into that just to put that property under contract and move forward because they were providing the money, and just later to find out that that person was a very difficult individual to deal with, and just dealing with them back and forth, it was a headache. My next point is if your partner is being emotional, difficult, and unreasonable, it's going to cause you stress, it's going to cost you time and money for you to apply and go to your lawyer to get their client to fulfill those promises. It just takes a lot of time and energy. So again, I always tell people, spend more time and think about the person that you're going to get in relationship with. In the beginning, if you spend your time doing the due diligence, asking them those questions, asking them what I call what if scenarios. What if you pass away suddenly, right? What happens then? What if a partner wants to move? What if a partner wants to sell? And what if a partner gets into financial difficulty and now they actually need to sell this property earlier than, let's say, what the JV agreement said? Let's say if it's at 5 years and you're in year number 2 and they need to sell the property, what then? So all of these clauses, as much as you can think about, have those in paper. But more importantly, talk about those before you even write it in paper and you get your lawyer to sign, you get their lawyer to sign it with the client. You know, you're seeking independent legal advice, which is important. But again, you need to come up with these things. You need to talk about these things so that when it happens, you're not like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of this. So those things are going to protect you. They're going to save you time and energy if you spend the time in the beginning before even entering a relationship with this person. So my next thing is when I'm looking at a JV partners, these are just some things that I ask myself. I have a form that we use called a Know Your Client, which I'm going to attach in this video that you can download and use in your business. So my KYC, my Know Your Client, these are just some common questions that I ask before entering into a relationship with a person, before writing an offer on a property, before asking them to go to their bank or broker to get applied. Because in our business, we act as the working partner where we bring in outside capital to buy real estate with. So the first question that I ask is, if I did not have a contract, if I did not have a JV agreement, a bare trust agreement, a promissory note agreement, would this still work out? Do I feel this would still work out with this person? Do I have good rapport with them? them? Have I known them long enough to like feel like I could trust them, right? And again, you're not going to really know at the end of the day till push comes to shove. But again, asking yourself this, if you're comfortable with that, that's one thing I like to ask myself. Do I feel it would still work out? Could we still reasonably figure things out if we didn't have an agreement? The next thing I like to ask people is, time-wise, what is their time frame on doing a JV, on holding this property for the long term? If I want to hold a property, and for the most part, all of my JV agreements have a stipulation where we're going to hold that property for 5 years. Because if you're not going to hold it for 5 years, you're not going to give that property enough time to appreciate and value and have the tenant pay down the mortgage where you're building up that equity gap, right? So when you do sell it or you refinance it later, you can pull out equity or you can sell it for a profit. If a JV partner says my time frame is, 1 year, they only want to hold it for 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, well, then again, they've already disqualified themselves from what we like to do. So ask yourself, does your time frame match their time frame? The next thing I like to ask is, capital-wise, when they're putting up capital, I don't want to work with somebody that is giving me their last $100,000 in their savings account, because again, if you're basically using somebody's money that all they have liquid is $100K or the money that they're giving you, well, when there's a bit of pressure on their life personally, which you have nothing to do with, if there's pressure on there, they're going to put pressure on selling that home. And I've run into this myself where, again, we worked with somebody where we didn't ask these questions in the beginning and it ran into things. And if you are in real estate, one definition I want you to look up is an accredited investor. So an accredited investor is someone that, according to most provinces or in the States, if you're in the US, they meet a certain investor criteria, where they make a certain amount of money. They have a certain amount of net worth. And these are things that I look for, asking them to see, like, if they're going to invest with me, do they have a huge net worth? Do they have high income? Do they have access to other liquid investments, lines of credits, where they're not just giving me their last bit of money? And that is another qualifying question that I ask a JV partner before getting into a relationship with. Now, you might be thinking like, wow, that's really personal. Yes, it is personal, because when you're dealing with somebody, you're dealing in real estate, you're dealing in finance, you need to be very transparent about these things. And even for you as well as, let's say, the working partner, you need to be transparent of what you're looking for, right? Again, the more time you take in the beginning, the more time in the future, stress and headache you're going to save yourself later if you take the time to do the due diligence in the beginning. The next thing that I like to ask a JV partner is, again, going back to my last question, was capital contribution, right? When I'm working with a JV partner, I like to work with people that do have a higher net worth. And the reason is, I don't want to have 100 investors or 100 JV partners with multiple deals. I want to build a business that is sustainable, that can actually survive long term, and to have a few partners where I can recycle their money over and over again. In the beginning, when I started, I would work with people that only had a little bit of money. And what would happen was I found myself having too many JV agreements. And even today, we have a lot of JV partnerships, but like now I've shrunk it down. Over 15 years in the business, I've actually, when I buy properties, I only buy them with a handful of people, like 4 or 5 people now, because they have high net worth, they're entrepreneurs, they're in business. So again, capital contribution is important to know that you want to work with a few people that you can do multiple deals over and over again. The next question I like to ask people are basically their overall expectation of the deal. When I am doing a JV partnership, I am looking for capital contributors. So people that are going to apply for the mortgage, they're going to put up the capital, they're going to put the 20% down, they're going to fund the renovation, and I and my team, we are going to manage that deal. We're going to manage it. We're going to lease it. We're going to take care of the repairs, the maintenance, the renovations. We're going to handle the tenants when they call. And again, we have an in-house property management team, and I'm going to make a video on this as well in the future, where I'm going to talk about how I have an in-house property manager and why that works better than hiring a third party outside. So again, we want to discuss these things, because at the end of the day, in a JV partnership, especially in my business and what I've learned through experiences, I want to work with somebody that is more of a silent partner, somebody that does not call us on a weekly basis or every other day asking how the property is doing. They know that our communication is on a monthly basis. They know that they're going to be getting a monthly and quarterly profit and loss statement of all the income and revenue from rent that has gone in the property and what has gone out of the property. So they get that. And I have JV partners even today that haven't even stepped foot in the property because, again, they had that trust with me. They had known me for a while, or maybe someone referred them to me, and through dealing with me and learning about my business and the amount of deals that we've done, they had that level of trust. And again, that's what I want to work with. I want to work with people that see that value in myself, my experience, my team, what I bring to the table, so that they're not questioning some of the decisions that I make. Super important. I have dealt with bad partners where they were the not so silent partner and they were calling me a lot more than what I would have liked. So I asked these questions now before getting into a partnership. So again, guys, those are some points that I would like to leave you with that have really served me well over the years. I'd love to hear from you. You know, if you are a real estate investor, if you've done a JV agreement, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are some things that you put in your joint venture partnership agreement that have served you well? What are some things you've missed that you have realized later that you should have put in? And I'd love to hear from that, and I'll comment myself below. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you found value from it, consider subscribing, sharing it with somebody that could also find value from it, and we'll see you all in the next video.